But we're going to start things off, first of all, with, I'm Leo Camacho, I'm your moderator today. And I want to just start off by everyone introduce yourselves. Let's go down the line and say your name and what you do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ruth Ann Thompson. I play Bulma in Light of Hope.
I'm Donnie McMillan. I'm co-creator of the project.
I'm Rita McMillan, the other co-creator of the project.
I am Kenny Wood, play Gohan.
I'm Amy Johnston and I play Android 18.
And I'm Tyler Tackett. I am Android 17.
I'm JJ Vasquez. I was first AD and I threw leaves whenever they were.
Professional.
More importantly, you threw leaves.
We'll see him a few times.
Did we all throw leaves eventually? Like we all jumped in and threw stuff at Kenny.
What? Except for me.
I think 50% of Dragon Ball is debris, so that's really important. So thank you guys all for joining us and everyone out here. I'm really excited to talk to you and pick your brains because I feel like this is one of the most ambitious and well-executed fan projects I've seen on the internet personally. As a big fan, I mean, you guys agree. In that vein, some questions here or a question for Donnie and Rita. This world is, watching everything you've created, even the new ones that we're going to be screening later on. It's dark. It's a significantly darker world than the animated series. So what I want to know is if you could tell us a little bit more about that process of transitioning what the animated series shows and how you decided to sort of transition that over into live action, and what elements do you keep faithful, what elements do you guys shift, and it's just sort of how do you approach all of it? How do you build that world in live action?
That was a very long question. But I guess I'll start with the darkness of it, because one of the reasons we chose the future timeline of telling the story of the history of Trunks is because it's the darkest part of the entire Dragon Ball Z series. It's very grounded in real life. There's actual consequences. In the series, if somebody dies, it's like, oh, just have a sensu bean and bring it back. But the future timeline is one where the movie starts out and everybody dies, besides obviously Gohan and Trunks and Bulma. So it's already very dark in contrast to the series going on. So it was, I would say, easier to adapt because you don't have to go with, there's not, like Oolong's not in it, there's no pigs, talking cats, all of those things. So it was easier to bring to life. And the elements I think we kept, first of all, we started with the characters, making sure that those stayed true to the original characters and were brought to screen. And one in particular, Bulma, in the series, like, not the future one, but she's very, sometimes over the top, especially in the English dub. So we wanted to look at, okay, what does Bulma do? She's the smartest person. Like, would she really be running around, like, yelling all the time? Probably not. So that was some of the things we kept with the characters. Gohan as well. Just really thinking about his daddy issues. Really like diving into the struggle and the weight that he bears. And those were the elements that we kept. Kenny, you want to say something, don't you?
No, the daddy issues part was the easiest part to cast. But no, yeah, she's right though. Like Gohan has some real serious issues if you think about it, right? Like he's not exactly like Goku who just like wants to have a really great fight and wants to be really great opponents. In some ways, very simple that way. Gohan's a little bit more complex because he's the son of the Superman of this world, and when Superman dies, what does he do? What happens to him? How does he cope with that? So that was some really interesting things that we got to play with during the live action adaptation.
Yes. I guess Donnie, I'll let you handle the rest of the stuff that we kept and what we didn't keep part of the question.
Well, I mean, I think this is part of that question. It's one of the big reasons we chose this part of the Dragon Ball Z lore is the dire consequences. Like kind of like what she was saying. There are no sensu beans. It is dark. I mean, Goku, the savior of the world, is gone for good this time, and it puts the characters in a situation where they have to really battle it, at least in our opinion, the most adversity. And so it was our personal favorite, and it just lent itself to being adapted to live action the most out of all the Dragon Ball Z to us. And everyone loves Trunks. Everyone loves future Trunks. Everyone loves future Gohan. They're our personal favorites, and so it was just really cool to be able to tell those stories.
That's awesome. How long had you guys wanted to sink your claws into this before you actually made it?
We talked about it for quite a long time. I'd say probably, we tossed around this project for probably a year before we actually got started. And in the process of even making it, there was many stages of evolution. So, don't say that word. But yeah, I mean, this has been a project in the making for quite a long time. Honestly, to give you a definite answer, it's pretty hard.
5 years.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Actually, touching on something Rita was saying, Ruth Ann, let's talk about Bulma for a sec.
Okay.
Like you're saying, she typically tends to be a little over the top, and she's like, I'm a tough cook. You know, it's very
Yeah.
lighthearted, right? Anytime she even shows serious emotion. But in this series, you get real serious, right?
Yeah, I mean, she has no power in this universe because all of her money and all of her brains can only get her so far. And she has that guilt, I feel like one thing that I always thought about for poor Bulma in the future version of everything in Future Trunks' timeline is that they're fighting androids. They're fighting mechanical things, and that should be where Bulma really shines. You know, I feel like she kind of has that feeling like I should be able to fix this. I should have found the blueprints or whatever. You know, something to do with these androids. And I mean, she's lost her best friend that she's been with for like 20 years, and it's a really tough spot to be in.
So how do you take that character that is so notoriously sort of, more on the bubbly side,
Yeah.
and convert that? Like, what do you keep? How do you sort of take that with you?
Well, and it's funny too because I always thought I was nothing like Bulma until they cast me, and then going through it, I was like, oh, I kind of am. I mean, obviously I'm not super rich or famous or a brainiac, but
We gotta make this go viral.
yeah, right.
Just saying.
But I'm generally very bubbly and all that kind of stuff, but she's just in such a hard place and she's just battle mode. So you kind of look at that and she's just doing everything she can. She's probably not sleeping. She's just staying so focused to it. And there's actually a little bit of lightness that starts off, but then we go right back into the to the dark, into the battle that they're all facing.
And then always bring it
Yeah.
back up whenever you can. Right?
Yeah.
You're sort of a light of hope.
Maybe technically that's true, but I'll take it.
Yeah, there you go. You can clap. That's cool. Clap it up, man. Bulma fan. Okay, actually, let's continue on this trend of diving into the characters a little bit. This question's for Amy, actually. With Android 18, it's such an interesting part.
Sorry.
Yeah, get ready, girl. It's such an interesting part to play because you're sort of this emotionless killing machine, right? But I feel like you're also extremely self-aware of not only your objective, but of the greater sort of picture that you guys are contributing to and what it could be. Can you kind of walk us through what it's like to get into that headspace?
Well, it's very dark. No, so a lot of times as an actor, you get to create your character based off of the script and what the director tells you. But for this, there was a lot of reference material, obviously. And I tried my best not to replicate her, because you guys have all seen that. And I tried to base everything more around the script and how everything was directed. And the most important part for me was connecting with my bro right here. I really wanted that connection to be there, and he was awesome to work with and brought out the evil in me, I suppose. We had a lot of fun.
I hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah. But I also tried to balance it so that she wasn't just one-dimensional, because she also does have a lot going on, and in this in particular, she's kind of questioning humanity and being a little philosophical, which was interesting for her.
Yeah, no, I actually was, because my next question's for Tyler, but I feel like a lot of times when you do sort of bring that out, you tend to trigger 17 a little bit with into doing things. So I want to know from you, Tyler, when you're in this character, I mean, again, another cold-hearted killing machine, right? Like, let's annihilate every single person on this planet with a smile. So can you talk about how do you take these two contrasting emotions and ideas and move forward as a character like that?
Yeah, what's cool about these two is they're not just emotionless androids. They actually have personality, and they have kind of a goal, and they have, especially 17, 18, they have almost this sibling kind of, I won't say rivalry, but they kind of pick on each other. And yeah, like 18 will kind of call him out when he's being arrogant or not focused and things like that. So 18 with this is the more level-headed, the more focused, the smarter one, whereas 17 is kind of more gung-ho, kind of crazy one. So for me, like Amy said, there was already a lot to draw from, and being a huge Dragon Ball Z fan my entire life, that part of it was fairly easy. Some of the hardest stuff was there's, and you'll see in the episode, some of the most difficult stuff that we had to do was just 17 and 18 sitting there and kind of talking about life and their plan and stuff like that, because in the anime that doesn't really happen very much. So we had to kind of take what was already made, the anime and all that, and then kind of dive into the psychology of these two killing machines. So that was, at least for me, some of the most difficult stuff. But again, Amy and I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time together and build this bond, and with Kenny and Jack as well. Some of the hardest stuff was having to get mad at Kenny and Jack, because we all became such good friends. When it was time to throw down, you have to look at him and be like, oh, I hate you, everything about you, and then...
That's why he's smiling the whole time.
That's why I'm smiling the whole time, yeah. And then we break into a dance battle afterwards. But yeah, I think that is pretty similar process for both Amy and I.
So the real question is, who's the leader?
Definitely 18. She's definitely the brains.
I would win in a fight.
I feel like 18.
Whether it's real life or not, Amy would win in a fight, 100%. Definitely
Actually
18.
fought before. We got video of that.
Yeah.
I expect a fanfic by the end of the day. Thank you. Kenny, let's dive into Gohan a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Let's get into those daddy issues, man.
Oh
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So
Do we have time?
This is a whole new panel, by the way. If you're just joining us, come on in. We're talking about daddy issues.
Yeah. Go on, Daniel.
Bringing this character to life. Obviously, like you were saying, he's like the son of the Superman of this world. But he is sort of the elite force that's left. So not only are you sort of lining up with this legacy, but you're also in demand to perform to save the world.
Right.
What? How do you do it?
Yeah, so then for this character, I thought it'd be really interesting. As you guys all know, most anime properties tend to be, very, very peppy, very bubbly, and it's a very lighthearted look at the world. But this one's like the complete opposite. It's very dark. And so if we were to adapt something to live action, you'd have to explore like the pathology behind the characters and like why am I the way that I am. And something that I really loved exploring with Gohan was, first of all, watching like every Dragon Ball Z movie that there was. It was very hard research. But yeah, as Gohan, something that I had to discover was the fact that he does have daddy issues, that he does have a huge amount of pressure built up to perform because everybody else is dead. How much survivor's guilt does he have? On top of that, he doesn't even want to be a superhero, right? Like he wants to be a scholar. He's always wanted to be just this kid who, studies his books, pleases his mom, and like does well in school, and work in the sciences or the arts or something. But he's forced into this, and so something that I really want to explore with this guy that we put up on live screen is that he's not entirely comfortable with it. Even being a big brother to Trunks, he's not entirely comfortable with it because everything is kind of thrust onto him. And I thought that was like a very interesting take of a character that's supposed to be Superboy of this world.
That's awesome. it's interesting because all these characters, like you guys keep pointing out the same things. It's like we only had this much to go off of, but a lot of it is sort of implied, and you dig deeper and you dig deeper. So, Donnie and Rita, what's that like? Like, how do you not only choose, what elements to move forward with, but how do you get your actors on the same sort of page as you and line everybody up, and then also be faithful to the fan community that has their idea of what these characters should be? How do you faithfully translate that?
Well, I'll do this backwards. How do we translate it as fans? We know what fans want, I'd say. So, I mean, that's the easy part. Everyone has had a nerd rage over a superhero movie, or whatever it may be, whatever it is that triggered that rage. But we've all had them. And so, we all think we have the better opinion of what should happen in said movie. And, as a fan film, we get to be in control of that and have solutions for the problems that we'd expect from like Hollywood or whatnot. So that's the easy part. What is challenging though is taking, I don't want to call Dragon Ball two-dimensional because there are layers to it, but it's the storytelling's in the action a lot of times, and that implied emotion and character development you're talking about it's you have to dig deep as a fan to see that a lot of times, and in live action that's really, you can't get away with that. It's really hard to adapt, and as a director it's really challenging to sometimes communicate, as Amy and Tyler were talking about their role. It kind of brought back a lot of memories of trying to communicate how to be a psychopath. And like it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard because you can quickly diverge, kind of go off track and become different characters than they are in the anime. So I remember even talking with Amy about her upcoming existential crisis that her character was having. It was just really tough to figure out, well, how would an immortal android that was created by a mad scientist that has like nuclear power basically, how does she feel? It's hard to relate. And same with Tyler, the dynamic between the two of them was really interesting and kind of hard to figure out. So that was probably one of the bigger challenges. And Kenny exploring how, I don't want to keep saying daddy issues because I feel like there's a lot more to him as well. I mean, he's just this, I found myself being able to relate as a big brother. His character really connects with me. And, having that mentorship role in a really tough situation I'd say that was probably one of the easier characters to understand in that way, but also just to be able to be faithful to the character as well, provided its own challenges, and it was a lot of fun. And Bulma, sorry to take it so long, but with Bulma, she was a really fun character because it was kind of easy to understand where to adapt her, because we didn't want to do, again, like the loud kind of like naggy thing that anime in general tends to do with the female characters. And it was cool to be able to make her a strong, smart, basically superhero in her own right. I mean, she's the smartest person on the planet. And to explore that was relatively easy because Ruth Ann in general in real life is kind of like a go-getter. So so
I think
it
one
was
thing
fun.
that helped with that was exploring themes, like with each character, like with Bulma. I think the theme that we kind of talked about was really it's like dueling scientists. Like it's Bulma versus Dr. Gero. Like what can she build? Or she's working on the time machine to beat Dr. Gero's creation of the android. So like there's a theme there. So I was like, okay, let's run with that and kind of ground it. Then with the androids, it's very much so like they realize and they're aware that they are a creation of man. Like the whole time, like oh, there's aliens, like the aliens, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, but at the end of the day, it was man who made these androids. So like we're battling ourselves. So I think just keeping those themes grounded it quite a bit and made it easier to adapt in real life.
Yeah, I think something that's important to point out too is that the reason why this emotional depth is so important is because we realized that we needed that to make the action and the fights have so much more meaning. Because, I mean, like Dragon Ball Z, everybody loves it because of the action and stuff, but then it's when you layer in like all the emotional stuff too that like the fight has meaning. And so that's something that I think you guys really realized. It's something I really appreciate about this project.
Yeah.
So just one little thing that I feel like we're kind of leaving out since since Jack, kid that plays Kid Trunks, isn't here. That was also an incredible challenge. Kid actors provide their own difficulties, and it's fun, and it's also just, you know, it's an adventure. And to get the dynamic right between him and Gohan was just, it was nuts. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but there's a lot of darkness, like you were saying earlier in this story, because everyone's lost everyone they've ever cared about. And so one of the big goals is to be able to really sell that connection, to really sell that little brother, big brother dynamic, and really get you attached. And you know, the story evolves around Trunks, even though he's not here. And it's a real challenge to get that kid actor to be able to capture this superhuman character and give him the necessary arc needed to, you know, hopefully give you the feels that make this project successful.
All the feels. Yeah, actually, talk about that a little bit. Kenny, what was it like working with, because you're playing a mentor role, like a daddy issue playing a daddy, basically, you know what I mean? So, like, what was that like working with him, that dynamic? How much of that was just you actually being a big brother?
A lot of it was very genuine, actually. There's at the very beginning, there's the beach scene where Gohan is being a mentor to Trunks. And some backstory is that was the first time I actually had met Jack. And we were on the beach at like 5 o'clock in the morning, freezing our tails off. And he didn't know who I was, so he was like, "Who's this guy? He's not the real Gohan." He's giving me a lot of crap. And so I had to basically be a punk to him too. So yeah, so then like once you guys see that scene, you'll see like there's a little bit of tension, which is good because I think there's a little bit of tension between brothers always, and yet they still do care deeply for each other, and so I hope that comes through on screen.
I want to touch on something you said earlier. You said the androids were having existential crises as they were filming this. It's like, am I a machine? Am I a person? So can you guys, the androids, can you tell us what's that like, knowing that your task is basically, you know, as androids, to kill everybody, is to drive yourself into obsolescence? Because once you kill everybody, you know, what's left? Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Man, you know, I feel like we actually kind of touch on that question in the film, so I don't want to say much. But that was one of the things that, and Amy and I sat and talked about a lot. That was one of the things that we kind of not had to, no, that's what I was thinking. That's something we had to kind of dig deep on because there's not a lot of backstory on the androids. I mean, there's a lot of stuff with the androids, but it's all in the like present time, the fighting stuff. You don't know a lot about their backstory and how they think and how they feel. So that was something we had to kind of dig deep on. And again, I don't want to say too much because that's
Hype it up.
Let me add to that. You mentioned like there's not a lot of backstory, but also like the androids had like 13 or 14 years from when they first landed and
Sure.
Gohan grew up. And they do stuff every day.
Yeah.
Like they have to go somewhere and like live.
go to Starbucks.
Like have
Just
conversations.
like
They have like, you know, thousands and thousands of days where they've gone and done stuff.
Sure.
But we don't always see them. So
It's
that's kind
like-
of what we were trying to do, is show like a day in the life.
Exactly. So that was a lot of fun to get to kind of dive in and explore that. I think actually Amy wanted to say something.
I actually agree. I would like for you guys to watch what we think because you'll get to have a good answer on that.
Yeah.
I got a fandom question here. So, you know, the Z fighters are dead, right? But obviously they were very meaningful in Bulma's life, with Vegeta, clearly, my fave. And, but he's not in the film, but you have, you know, your character's struggling with his loss. So how deep in your mind did you go into developing that relationship with Vegeta in the past? Did you like go full fanfic and like, oh God, we used to go to the beach? Or was it just something, you know, like did you develop this whole relationship that never happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I am an exceeding huge fan of Dragon Ball, like since the beginning, since like I was probably high school or whatever, and saw absolutely everything. And I tried really hard to approach it more as an actress than a fan. So, and one thing that I always do whenever I take a role is I actually do write an entire biography, like literally from birth to the moment that the project starts. So I did. I had like a whole, because it's a little different than it ends up being in the timeline that we know of Dragon Ball. I feel like they just had a slightly different thing going, and I feel like they didn't. One thing that's harder for her is that they didn't actually fully have a relationship, that they were just starting. Trunks was just born, and then everybody's gone. And it was really fun rewatching everything, of course. Like, that was the best part. Like you were saying, it's the worst thing ever to research and rewatch everything. But to go through and find the honesty, because yeah, especially in the American version of the English dub, she's yelling all the time. But then if you look, it's super frustrating being Bulma. Like, Goku is so stupid, and he's so powerful, and like all of them though, like even like with Vegeta, like they love to fight and all this kind of stuff, and it's so frustrating being like the smartest person. So I tried to like kind of find that honesty there, as well as like obviously the love that she has for the Z Fighters and Vegeta and Goku and all that, and Gohan and Trunks, obviously.
Just attract the studs, huh?
Yeah, that's, I know that, yeah.
As always, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a like, share, and smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out our new gear inspired by our Dragon Ball Z Light of Hope series. These items will only be around for a limited time, and your support allows us to keep making awesome content. Also, we'll be traveling to a bunch of cons next year, so leave a comment below letting us know what cons you'd like us to attend. Until next time, see ya!